Hello and welcome to Algebra Unit 3, Concept 1, Lesson 1. So our objective today is scholars will develop an understanding of the nature of rational and irrational numbers. That's what we're talking about today. Rational and irrational numbers in the number system. So, first we need to discuss what the real number system. Notice that everything we're talking about here are real numbers. So, there are different levels of numbers. Obviously, we have the natural numbers, and I will be going into full definitions of these shortly. So, natural numbers were the first numbers that we discovered. There's no other number system contained within natural numbers. Whole numbers contain all the natural numbers. So, everything that's a natural number is also a whole number, an integer, a rational number, and a real number. Again, whole numbers are contained within integers. Integers are contained within rational numbers, and rational numbers are contained within real numbers. There are also irrational numbers that are also contained within real numbers. So the real number system consists of all of the rational numbers and all of the irrational numbers together. So I want to go over some vocabulary with you. So the first numbers that people came up with were natural numbers. Those are our counting numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. Every number that you could use to count something, if I have 2,000 of it, that is a natural number. They are the counting numbers. Those are the first numbers that people came up with. Next, we have whole numbers. So whole numbers are all of the natural numbers and 0. 0 is not a natural number because we don't count things with the number 0. These were used for counting, so they didn't ever count 0. We can't count 0 of something because it's not there. Next, you have the integers. We talk a lot about integers. Integers are all the whole numbers and their opposites. So not just 1, 2, 3, but also -1, -2, -3. Whole numbers and their opposites, and then, of course, whole numbers also has 0, which doesn't have an opposite. Then we're down to rational numbers. Rational numbers are all numbers that can be written as a ratio. That's where rational number comes from. A ratio is just a fraction with integer numerator and denominators. So something like 2/3, 5/8. If we look at decimal representation, rational numbers will always either terminate or repeat. So if I think about like 1/3, if I wrote it as a decimal, would be 0.33 forever, right? That's still a rational number. And something like 0.75 would be rational as well. Remember, those be written, 0.75 is 3/4. Because it can be written as a ratio of two numbers, it is a rational number. Next, we have irrational numbers. Irrational numbers. So these are real numbers, and we're going to talk exactly what real numbers are, that cannot be represented as a ratio of two whole numbers. So it's not a ratio of two whole numbers or two integers. A decimal representation will never end or repeat. Well, that sounds familiar. So I think pi is an irrational number because it never ends and never repeats. Remember, it's 3.141592653. It just keeps going on. There's also an irrational number, E. It's also called as Euler's number. It's worth about 2 point something. So that's another irrational number. Also included irrational numbers are things like the square root of 2. The square root of 15. Any square root that doesn't have a root that we know of is irrational. If I try to find the square root of 2, it would be some sort of decimal, something like 1.18357, something that wouldn't go into a loop. Okay, I don't know if that's right or not. But just to give you an idea, it doesn't go into loop. It never ends. It never repeats. The last thing is real numbers. So we said all of these are real numbers. When I say real numbers, I mean it is a number that can be placed on a number line, even approximately. We can approximate where irrational numbers go on the number line, because they are real numbers. Real numbers can go on a number line. That is the real number system. Remember that if I am a whole number, something like 0, I am also an integer, a rational number, and a real number. If I'm an irrational number, something like pi, or e, or the square root of 10, I'm also a real number. Okay? So, good luck with your classwork and your mastery check, and I will see you all in class.